Marvel's Avengers. I wish I could tell you that the outlook surrounding this game is looking better, but its woes continue. Looking at the player base, it's still sitting at a pretty low count, with average players sitting at 823 over the past 30 days, which for a multiplayer-centric live service looter-style game, not a good look. As far as where we're at in the roadmap, we are through the Red Room Takeover event, which is one of the topics of this video, which was, just meh. Frankly, a lot of the stuff recently has just been meh, but players who continue to engage with Marvel's Avengers are looking for any kind of new content or remix content to play through, any new rewards to earn, and Red Room Takeover offered that, to maybe not expansive degree, but it was something, I suppose. Now, the unfortunate thing about this event was that some of its best rewards, the rewards that weren't even all that good, were locked entirely behind the marketplace. So, among the things offered by the Red Room event is these new skins that are basically recolors. They were straight up just basically color changes, shaders if you will. And so a lot of the backlash revolved around not only the fact that the rewards were kind of lame, but those rewards were not given out by completing the event. You had to pay for those. Instead, what the event rewarded was just a nameplate, basically, was the best it could muster, which is some of the less desired cosmetic rewards in the game. And so that's why we've been seeing complaints like this one right here from Reddit user E. Barrick, who said, "Can we please get loot rewards for these events? Nameplates are bad, or nameplates are bad rewards. Change my mind." People pointing out how it is straight up just recolors, and the fact that this wasn't just given out as gameplay rewards given the low effort here, and given the fact that it's an event and you want rewards that make the event worthwhile at the end of it all. It's all baffling, people. Once again, we have somebody else saying these event-specific skins in the marketplace should instead be a reward for completing it, or at least some credits. And the thing is, these cosmetics aren't cheap. You can see right here a listing of prices by category. Cosmetics can go up to $14 if it's a legendary outfit and whatnot. The lack of rewards continues to be a major issue with Marvel's Avengers. But as if all that wasn't enough, when Red Room Takeover finally launched, unfortunately, the event was bugged out for a good amount of people, enough that we did start to see reports on Reddit of people posting footage like this, showing that after clearing the first wave of this Red Room Takeover event gameplay, the second wave would not show up. The game would literally just stay stuck after finishing that first wave, which meant that players who suffered from this could not progress any further. They were literally just stuck here, and as a result, could not earn the Red Room Takeover rewards. It was bad enough how stingy this event was with its rewards, but then we learned that there were people who straight up couldn't even chase after that because the event was bugged. Here's somebody else who said, "Red Room Takeover glitch. Help, I can't get past the first wave and it does not spawn new enemies." Yeah, I'm going through the exact same thing. So a good amount of people reported this particular issue and reported not being able to progress further throughout the length of the event. Others experienced more severe issues where the game was not loading for them after Red Room Takeover went online. When I select a campaign to actually play, I either get stuck in an infinite loading screen or the game just straight up crashes. And then in this other post where one Reddit user said, "Well, the Red Room Takeover event is nothing special, but hey, it's at least something, it's not the worst thing," somebody else responded with, "I know some people can't actually do the event, and that sucks, and even more so for the people who completed it and had their rewards bug." Beyond some people not being able to complete the event, or the game just straight up crashing for them, or not being able to load into the game, for those who did manage to get through the event and its content, for some, there was a bug where they just straight up would not receive the rewards that they were supposed to receive. Stuff like the nameplate, which again is just a stingy, kind of lame reward, but at least there was something to pursue in a game that's woefully lacking content and variety. And yet, even for those who got through it, they were met with an unfortunate event where they were ultimately not rewarded for their time and effort. And drawing further ire is the fact that the developers offered no compensation to those who were affected by bugs that didn't allow them to engage with the content or earn the event's rewards. After the time limit of that event passed, plenty of people were left screwed. And so this Reddit user highlighted this by stating, "No compensation for those who couldn't partake in Red Room Takeover is a shitty thing. First, let me say Red Room worked fine for me and I got every single reward I was supposed to. I don't want people to think this is just someone clamoring for credits or something. Now, since the dev stream, this has been bothering me. The whole issue of just moving on from Red Room Takeover and leaving nothing for those who couldn't play it is absolutely asinine. I get you guys probably couldn't figure out the bugs within the week of this event, but just saying it'll return again isn't good enough. People are missing out on XP, exotic gear, legendary gear, and resources, and they don't even get to play the new stuff. How can you just say sorry, better luck next time, essentially?" So far, I couldn't agree more. You owe your damn players a little more respect than that, whether it be credits, gear, etc. You owe your players something, and just leaving them in the dust isn't okay. And the fact that that isn't a consideration just kind of goes to highlight why people are leaving this game. There's just a lack of engagement with the community, and the game itself is still very much in dire straits when it comes to its technical state, as well as the state of its variety of content and the substance and quality of its content. Here's one of the top responses to this thread. "Well said, I'm one of those people that this bug affected. I appreciate everything that you said above, and when the event does return, and it should, that is, some people, maybe most, will get the new rewards as well as the old rewards, and those who missed out on the first will still get the shaft. But you know what? I'm more pissed off about the lack of communication over this issue than missing out. They just hoped we would lay over and crawl under a rock." The lack of communication has been a major issue since day one of this game, and unfortunately it would seem as though that lack of communication has continued. But it does not end there, ladies and gentlemen. Beyond the technical issues surrounding events and the fact that the events themselves haven't been in any way, shape, or form mind-blowing or anything that would rekindle interest from players who have already left and forgotten about Marvel's Avengers, it turns out that players who are still engaging with this game and have been anticipating an overhaul to loot should not be expecting that at all. This was reported by Paul Tassi on news outlet Forbes. The headline here reads, "Marvel's Avengers isn't getting a definitive Loot 2.0 patch." Loot is one of the major issues of this game. Loot is simply far too unrewarding in this looter live service experience. As explained in the article, the Loot 2.0 rework that the community kept bringing up was once again brought up on this live stream that was recently hosted, and we got an answer that definitively says there is no singular grand rework of gear coming. Loot in the game is rarely exciting or truly transformative. Maybe you'll get some statistical buffs here and there, but never anything particularly mind-blowing. There are no sets with bonuses, and exotics function the way legendaries might in Destiny. Rarely does it feel like there's anything truly exotic about them. One of the things that makes exotics worth pursuing in Destiny is because they truly feel unique in how they function and some of the effects that they have. There's none of that, really, in Marvel's Avengers. For the most part, you just get better armor that boosts a number and doesn't add anything else beyond that. And it also doesn't help that, as pointed out by Forbes, and as I've seen myself having played the game, loot has no cosmetic impact. First of all, it just doesn't make sense within the context of a superhero game, when a superhero has to loot for better gear when the powers are inherent. But even moving past the lack of logic there, just from a pure gameplay standpoint, it is not satisfying to loot something that just ups a number but does little else. And in Marvel's Avengers, there's literally a button to just automatically equip the stuff with the highest number, the stuff that gives you the higher gear, power, gear level, whatever you want to call it. And so loot doesn't feel like it's something you can really sit down and contemplate what to equip based on both your stats and your looks. It's all just kind of a routine, an automated routine that doesn't give you that sense of like, oh, I've acquired a new toy that either makes me look cooler or makes me do cooler stuff. And that's what the point of loot is. And if you lack that, then you failed at making a rewarding looter. Now, this article points out here that the game is trying to sell coherent costumes. Obviously, with superheroes, they have a unified look with their costume, and mixing and matching gear might make them look weird. But, you know, as Forbes aptly highlights, maybe that's a sign that you shouldn't have made a superhero game into a looter, when this is a genre that may not necessarily fit that, and I've always felt that Marvel's Avengers should have never been a looter game. This game should have been more in line with the Arkham series or Marvel Spider-Man. It should have focused on epic set pieces and a campaign with a substantial story, and maybe you could add some co-op elements given this is Avengers, but beyond that, it should not have been a looter live service. It should have been a narrative-driven experience. But even as a looter, Marvel's Avengers could have been much better handled. The loot could have been much better handled. Beyond adding more unique effects, you could have made it so, I don't know, superheroes have a base costume and then different loot, maybe add additional pieces to what they're already wearing, rather than it entirely changing their look. Or, hell, you could have just let players do the whole mixing and matching and made their superheroes look as cool or as ugly as they wanted to. If you were going to go looter, might as well have gone full out instead of restricting the cosmetic aspect of it. That's really one of the major issues of this game, is that it doesn't seem like it fully commits to anything. It doesn't stand out in any way. And so loot is just extremely lackluster in Marvel's Avengers. It doesn't really understand what draws people to the cycle of a looter gameplay loop. And so to learn that a Loot 2.0 overhaul isn't actually in the works, that instead we're going to get incremental updates to loot that probably ultimately won't yield substantial enough results to bring players back in, and you've got a situation where I'm even more pessimistic than I've ever been about the future of this game. It is, at its core, a looter. And if there's no loot rework in a game that gets loot so wrong, how on earth is this game going to survive? I don't know. And you can see right here that people have been discussing the potential and the prospects of a Loot 2.0 for quite some time. This is a post from a month ago on Reddit whose headline reads, "Loot 2.0 should resemble Outriders' loot system," and responses are contemplating ways that Loot 2.0 can enhance the loot of this game. Here's another post from a month ago. How do you think Loot 2.0 will differ from the current loot? Plenty of discussion surrounding that and maybe a little bit of excitement. And then they were hit with the news we aren't getting a definitive Loot 2.0 patch. And so people down here, you can see, are expressing their disappointment. Taking so long because they got to make one up first. Champion system is a perfect example of no actual plan. This is heartbreaking. I think yet again, as a community, we expected a little too much out of Crystal Dynamics. They have shown their hand time after time after time. The quality is in the cosmetics. The effort is in the cosmetics. The care is in the cosmetics, which of course is pretty much mostly relegated to the store and you having to spend real money. I legit don't know why their next step, if they truly intend to keep this game alive for the long term, wouldn't be to work on a loot overhaul. I don't know if it's that they're lacking the manpower currently. Is it just a skeleton crew running this game now? Is the plan to wind this game down slowly, and so they're only keeping a few developers around to add a couple of updates? That's just kind of how it starts to feel like when you see either a lack of commitment to something that a game desperately needs, or a lack of potentially showing that you don't have the manpower to rework something to this extent. Like, I don't know, I'm just speculating, but either way, this is not a great look. I don't know what the community has to look forward to. Everyone is keeping their fingers crossed that this expansion, War for Wakanda, which adds Black Panther and adds, new story stuff and new content, will be the spark that will relight this fire. But if structurally, if on a foundation level, the loot is still not rewarding, if the missions remain repetitive, if the content doesn't offer a whole lot of substance, if the core issues of Marvel's Avengers remain, it doesn't matter how many new heroes you add, how many new maps or levels you add, it's just not going to win back players, and this looter will continue to fall apart at the seams. I don't want that to happen for this game, but it's just the trajectory it seems to be headed in. And, it doesn't seem like the community feels like they're being listened to. and that's just going to drive players away. The future is still ultimately uncertain, but more and more as time passes, I'm inclined to believe that the odds of this game making a major comeback, making a big recovery, are pretty damn low. But that's just one man's take on this situation and the current prospects of Marvel's Avengers. Let me know in the comments below what your take is on all of the recent developments surrounding this game. Do you think there is a chance for a comeback with this War for Wakanda expansion, or is the writing on the wall? Drop a comment below, share your thoughts, and to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.